You ever get that feeling
Yeah.
that the world's just, well, so much bigger?
Bigger than what we usually focus on, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's this whole other current running alongside the Western ideas we know best. We're talking Eastern philosophy, religion, culture.
Mm-hmm. It's a truly vast and influential landscape of ideas.
Absolutely. And it's not just, exotic stuff from far away.
Not at all. Eastern thought has genuinely shaped global history deeply, and it still influences how we see everything, really, from our own minds to the universe.
It really does. So, okay, if you're just dipping your toes in, it can feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, where do I even start? It's a common feeling.
Totally. And that's exactly what this deep dive is for.
Yeah.
Our mission today really is to give you, if you're new to all this, a clear way in, an engaging one.
We've pulled together some pretty fascinating insights.
Yeah, highlighting key ideas, trying to keep the jargon down.
Yeah.
Hopefully sparking some real aha moments for you.
Think of it as your friendly guide.
Your first taste, maybe. Designed to be interesting, informative.
But not overwhelming.
Right. Okay, so where do we begin? Let's look at the sheer historical weight, the global impact.
Sounds good. Our sources really point to a major turning point, the discovery of Sanskrit by Western scholars back in the 18th century.
Sanskrit. That feels important.
Oh, it was huge. The Encyclopedia Americana even suggests it was like one of the most important cultural events since the Renaissance.
Wow, seriously, since the Renaissance.
That's what it says, because it wasn't just about learning an old language. It unlocked this incredible treasure trove of knowledge.
Okay.
And that fundamentally reshaped whole fields of study in the West. Think linguistics, finding the links between Indo-European languages.
Right, that common ancestry.
Exactly. Comparative grammar, mythology, even theology. Many of these fields either popped up because of studying Sanskrit or were just profoundly changed by it.
It was a real intellectual awakening then.
Absolutely. It just underlines how connected our understanding of the world actually is, doesn't it?
It really does. Amazing that one discovery could ripple out like that. Okay, shifting gears a bit, maybe more personal. There's this incredible book.
Ah, yes. Autobiography of a Yogi.
By Paramahansa Yogananda. It brought Eastern spirituality to the West in a very direct way.
Hmm.
And it's had quite a life, this book. It still resonates.
It really does. Even when it first came out, over 60 years ago, people knew it was something special. Dr. Binay R. Sen, he was India's ambassador to the U.S., wrote in the foreword how readers could almost feel the spiritual light coming from Yogananda just from the pages.
Wow.
It was a key introduction for many Westerners to Eastern spiritual ideas, sure, but specifically this idea of a practical science of contacting God.
And it's not just some historical document gathering dust.
Not at all. It's widely seen as a spiritual classic today, still inspiring people all over the world.
And the really interesting part, its impact was apparently predicted way earlier.
Right, by Lahiri Mahasaya, he was Yogananda's guru's guru. Quite a lineage there.
So what was the prophecy?
He predicted that about 50 years after his passing, his life story would be written down. And that book would spark this huge interest in yoga in the West.
No way.
Yeah, and it would help foster the sense of global unity,
Yeah.
Brotherhood based on us all having one divine father.
That's incredible foresight.
It is. And the book's appeal has been surprisingly broad. It's been called the Upanishad of the New Age. Meaning it sort of fills that deep spiritual need, that thirst, but on a global level today. And what's really remarkable,
Go on.
it actually became super popular in India, too, among people already familiar with Indian philosophy and sages.
That is surprising. Like reading a bestseller about your own backyard.
Exactly. It says a lot. And get this, it even reached a few people in the former Soviet Union.
Really? Given the political climate, that's astounding.
It is. It just highlights that fundamental human search for meaning, doesn't it? It transcends borders, politics, everything.
Definitely. Okay, so we've got the history, the global reach. Now, let's maybe unpack some of the core ideas, the worldviews.
Sounds good. And a key area where Eastern thought often takes a different path is consciousness.
Consciousness. Okay, how so?
Well, Western psychology has done amazing work exploring the subconscious, mental illness, things psychiatry can address.
Right, Freud, Jung, that whole tradition.
Precisely. But Eastern philosophies often dive into much broader states of consciousness, going way beyond just our normal waking state or the subconscious.
Broader how?
Think about Indian systems like Samkhya or yoga. They offer these incredibly detailed maps, classifications of mental processes, how the intellect works, the ego, the mind itself.
A systematic mapping, you mean?
Exactly. A level of detail about our inner landscape that, well, maybe hasn't always been the main focus in the West. It's like the East provides a more comprehensive owner's manual for our inner world.
A comprehensive manual. I like
Right.
that. Like Western psych explored the basement, but Eastern thought maps the whole house, attic included.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
Huh.
And exploring consciousness that deeply naturally leads to this idea of interconnectedness feels really fundamental.
Interconnectedness. Okay, I think Emerson touched on this, right? Even though he was Western.
He did, deeply influenced by Eastern ideas. He wrote something like, the creation is represented in every smallest part of it. The smallest drop of dew is a creation.
So the idea is that everything reflects the whole.
Kind of, but deeper, I think. The idea that the divine or ultimate reality isn't separate from creation. It's in everything, permeating every single bit, no matter how small.
God in a dewdrop.
Essentially, yes. And that understanding, that profound sense of connection, it changes how you see yourself, others, the world. It fosters unity.
And that leads to how we should live, right?
Hmm.
The source mentioned an ideal. Never for a moment forgetting God while performing actions.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're constantly praying in a formal way.
Okay.
It's more about cultivating mindfulness, deep presence, being fully there in whatever you're doing, connecting your actions to something bigger.
So integrating spirituality into everyday stuff.
Right.
Work, chores, whatever.
Exactly, being fully present, aware. And this really pushes back against that common Western idea that some Eastern philosophy, maybe Hinduism, is all about escape, renunciation, dropping out.
Right, the idea of just meditating on a mountaintop somewhere, detached from life.
Yeah, that stereotype. But if you look at the Vedic system of Chaturvarga,
Chaturvarga.
the four aims of life, dharma, which is like righteous duty, artha, material well-being, kama, sensory pleasure, and finally moksha, spiritual liberation.
So worldly things are included there. It's not all about escape.
Not at all. And then there's the traditional division of life into stages study, being a householder, then later contemplation, meditative practices. It's a balanced approach, engaged.
That makes sense. A framework for a whole life, integrating both the worldly and the spiritual.
Precisely, it's holistic. Okay, so that leads us naturally into some of the key practices, disciplines, yoga probably being the most famous one in the West.
Definitely. Yoga. But it's way more than just the physical poses, isn't it?
Oh, much more. Our source mentions pranayama breath regulation techniques.
Like Bostrika.
Yeah.
It mentions that one.
Yeah, that's a forceful breathing exercise. And the text notes its effect calming the mind. It's all about working with prana, that vital life force, through the breath.
Controlling the life force.
Controlling and directing it, yeah. And what's fascinating is how Western science is sort of catching up, finding validation for these ancient ideas.
How so?
Well, way back in 1928, Professor Jules Bois at the Sorbonne in Paris, he actually acknowledged that Western science was recognizing something called superconsciousness.
Superconsciousness, distinct from the subconscious.
Exactly. He said it possesses faculties that make us truly human. It's interesting, this convergence, and Emerson's idea of the oversoul.
That universal consciousness we can all tap into.
Right. It resonates with this long-standing philosophical idea of a higher consciousness that's always been there, recognized for ages.
Which connects to that idea of the divine within, right? The oversoul,
Yeah.
or that spark inside us.
Yes. Emerson described us as part of a temple, holding all knowledge and goodness, our spiritual side always open to the divine. It's a powerful image of our potential.
That the answers aren't out there, but in here.
That's a core theme in many Eastern traditions. The potential for growth lies within. Practices like meditation, yoga, they're tools to uncover that divinity.
Tools for inner discovery.
Huh?
The source also mentioned awakening spinal centers.
Yeah, chakras.
The chakras. And it makes this surprising link
To the Bible.
to the book of Revelation, yeah. It mentions the mystery of the 7 stars and 7 churches and suggests they could be symbols for these 7 energy centers.
Huh. That makes you wonder about universal symbols, doesn't it? Shared spiritual experiences across cultures.
It certainly does. It raises questions about underlying unity, maybe described in different symbolic languages.
Then there's Kriya Yoga, described as a specific method.
Yes, a simple psychophysiological method. Works with the blood, decarbonating it, oxygenating it.
And this affects the pranic energy, the brain, the spinal centers. That's the idea. It's said to have profound effects on that energy flow in those centers. And the text even hints.
And more advanced possibilities.
Yeah, that advanced yogis might even be able to transform physical cells into pure energy. It alludes to figures like Elijah, Jesus, Kabir, suggesting they might have mastered similar techniques.
Wow. Transforming cells into energy. That's a big claim.
It is, but it points to this idea of a practical, almost scientific approach to spiritual development. Kriya Yoga is presented as a specific technique for inner transformation, for accelerating evolution.
And it's not instant magic, right?
No, the text emphasizes it's gradual. You practice it. Spiritual progress happens over time, maybe even lifetimes.
So even if someone doesn't reach, like, full enlightenment in one life.
The positive effects, the karma of the practice carry forward. It fits that Eastern view of a long journey of spiritual evolution.
A continuous journey. Okay, let's shift a bit now. How does all this Eastern wisdom connect with modern science?
Ah, another fascinating area. Our sources highlight Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose.
The scientist. What did he do?
He invented the crescograph, an amazing instrument. It could magnify the life movements in plants millions of times.
Millions, so you could see things the microscope couldn't.
Exactly. See that subtle life force in action. It was a scientific window into interconnectedness at a really basic level.
And Bose himself was interesting, right? Bridging East and West.
Very much so. He had top-notch Western scientific training, Cambridge, but he deeply valued his Eastern heritage, too, that tradition of introspection, inner awareness.
So he combined both.
Yes, and that synthesis proved incredibly powerful. Western methods for subtle investigation plus Eastern introspection. It opened up insights into the silent world of nature.
And he found unity in biology.
He did. Things like discovering electrical impulses in nerves. He used the Nutella plant to study them in, like slow motion. It showed a fundamental process common to plants and animals.
More interconnectedness, validated scientifically.
Exactly. And this resonates so strongly with that Eastern view of the universe being made of subtle vibrations.
Vibrations, how did that connect?
Well, the source uses this great analogy. A spiritually realized teacher, a guru, is like a perfect human radio.
A radio.
Finely tuned to thoughts, which are described as Sukshma Spandan, subtle vibrations in the ether, in space.
Okay.
Just like a radio receiver tuned to the right frequency picks up one specific station out of countless broadcasts.
A receptive mind can tune into specific thoughts or higher consciousness.
That's the idea, tuning into the vast ocean of awareness. It's a powerful image for how subtle energies and information might move.
It is. And this vibration idea, it connects to physics too, doesn't it?
Remarkably so.
Right.
Modern science with electron microscopes confirms that atoms at their core are basically light.
And Einstein's EMC and matter are interchangeable.
Right, which lines up incredibly well with the ancient Eastern view that creation originates from light.
It's kind of mind-bending. That ancient sages might have grasped this through deep meditation, something science needed advanced tech to confirm.
It really is. And the text even suggests that enlightened folks, understanding this underlying light principle, this tattva,
They could potentially manifest things.
potentially, yes, through their deep knowledge and divine will, interacting with reality in ways that seem, well, miraculous to us.
Wow. Okay. So moving from science,
Yeah.
what about the nature of reality itself? And us within it? Maya comes up here.
Yes, Maya. Often translated as illusion, but it's a bit tricky.
Easily misunderstood, maybe?
I think so. The text explains that birth, death, our whole physical experience, they're expressions of Maya.
So not real.
Not that they aren't real on an everyday level. They feel real, obviously. It's more that they aren't the ultimate unchanging truth, like a dream.
Feels real while you're in it, but you wake up and realize.
Exactly. You realize it wasn't the final reality. Maya points to the impermanent, changing nature of the physical world and our limited perception of it.
And this contrasts with the Western idea of man, know thyself.
It does. That Greek ideal emphasizes self-understanding through intellect. The Hindu perspective, our source says, goes deeper. Man, know thy soul.
The unchanging essence, not just the thinking mind.
Right. Shifting focus from the ego and intellect to that eternal core, which leads to a critique of Descartes.
I think, therefore I am.
Yeah. From this deeper viewpoint, the text argues, intellect alone can't grasp ultimate reality.
Why not?
Because the mind itself, like the world it sees, is always changing, always in flux. So it can't be the final, unchanging principle.
So intellectual satisfaction isn't the end goal for a spiritual seeker.
Not the ultimate goal, no. They're looking for unchanging truth. Everything else is seen as relative knowledge or even ignorance from that absolute perspective.
It's not dismissing thought, but seeing its limits for grasping the absolute.
Precisely. The text also briefly mentions reincarnation, the cycle of birth and death.
And different realms, beyond the physical.
Yes, astral and causal realms. With subtle bodies carrying consciousness between lives, it paints a much bigger, more intricate cosmic picture than we usually think about.
A multi-layered reality. Gives context to the soul's journey, maybe.
That's the idea. Understanding birth, death, rebirth, the subtle influences. Finally, let's touch on interfaith harmony. Universal principles.
Seems like a natural outcome of this interconnected view. Yogananda's mission, right?
Absolutely. His mission was very clear. Spread yoga's message, foster spiritual harmony between East and West.
And he started that Church of All Religions.
Yes, his organization, Self-Realization Fellowship, established it in Hollywood in 1942, a powerful symbol of that inclusive, universal approach.
Groundbreaking for its time, surely.
Definitely. Promoting the idea that beneath the diverse surfaces of world religions, there are fundamental universal truths connecting us all. Unity, respect.
A powerful message. And Gandhi fits here too, right?
Perfectly. His philosophy of nationalism wasn't narrow, it was as broad as the world.
Encompassing everyone's well-being.
Yes. Advocating for the welfare of all nations, and seeing love and truth as the ultimate powers for change, its interconnectedness applied globally.
Applying spiritual principles to social action.
Beautiful. It really is. Extending that unity to human relations, global responsibility.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive. Wow, we've covered a lot.
We really have.
From Sanskrit's impact, autobiography of a yogi, consciousness, interconnectedness, Maya, Kriya Yoga, the science links, universal harmony. Quite a journey.
Definitely some incredibly rich ideas there.
And it's crucial to remember, like you said, this is just an intro.
Absolutely. Each concept we touched on, you could do a whole deep dive just on that one thing, easily.
For sure. Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about this emphasis on inner awareness, on interconnectedness, how might that shift how you see things, your own experiences, your relationships, maybe even the big challenges out there in the world?
Could this wider view on consciousness offer new ways to navigate life, to engage with the world?
Something to ponder, maybe? This dive is really just the start.
Hopefully just the beginning of a journey for you. We definitely encourage you to explore more. Check out resources like Autobiography of a Yogi or look into the Yogoda Satsanga Society teachings.
There's a huge, rewarding world of wisdom out there.
Absolutely. Keep exploring.
Here's to continued learning and hopefully many more of those aha moments for you.